I can almost guarantee you don't know why Satan fell. People say it was pride, that he wanted to be God, that arrogance corrupted him and heaven expelled him. That explanation is simple, clean, and incomplete. Because pride is not the cause of Satan's fall, it's the symptom. The real reason Satan was cast out is far more unsettling, because it wasn't just about rebellion, it was about authority, order, and a fundamental disagreement over how creation itself should work. And once you understand that, the entire biblical story from Eden to the end times suddenly locks into place. To see it clearly, we have to start before humanity existed, before sin, before temptation, before Satan had a name. In the earliest biblical texts, Satan is not introduced as a red-skinned demon with horns. He is described as something far more precise and far more dangerous. A created being of immense authority. Ezekiel 28, often debated but deeply influential in theological tradition, describes a figure who was the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. He is said to have walked among the stones of fire, placed on the holy mountain of God. This wasn't a servant at the bottom of the hierarchy. This was an administrator, a guardian, a being entrusted with oversight. In ancient Hebrew thought, creation was structured. God ruled, but governance flowed downward through layers of authority. Angels were not decorative, they were functional. They had domains, responsibilities, and jurisdiction. And Satan, known as Helel, or the Shining One, held one of the highest roles. So what went wrong? Here's where the story shifts. The common belief is that Satan looked at God and said, "I want to be you." But that's not actually what the text suggests. Isaiah 14 records a series of statements attributed to the fallen figure. "I will ascend. I will raise my throne. I will sit enthroned." Notice something important. He doesn't say he will replace God. He says he will elevate his position within God's structure. This wasn't an attempted coup. It was a dispute over how authority should be exercised. And that dispute becomes crystal clear once humanity enters the picture. According to Genesis, when God creates humans, he does something unprecedented. He gives them dominion over the earth, over living creatures, over the material realm. This is radical. Humans are physical beings, lower than angels in power and knowledge, yet they are granted stewardship over creation. Psalm 8 even acknowledges this tension, saying humans were made a little lower than the heavenly beings, yet crowned with glory and honor. In other words, humans outrank angels in authority over the physical world, even if they don't outrank them in raw power. And that's the fracture point. Because Satan's role was tied to governance, order, hierarchy, control. And suddenly, authority is being handed to beings made of dust. This isn't jealousy in the childish sense. This is a fundamental ideological conflict. Satan believed authority should flow from power and superiority. God established authority through assignment and obedience. Humans didn't earn dominion, they were entrusted with it. And Satan rejected that model. The rebellion wasn't, "I want to be God." It was, "This system is wrong." Which explains something crucial. Why Satan doesn't destroy humans outright in the biblical narrative. Instead, he tempts them. He challenges the legitimacy of their authority by undermining their obedience. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent doesn't say God is evil. He says God is withholding. You will be like God. That's not an invitation to become divine. It's an invitation to seize authority prematurely, to reject assigned order and claim autonomy. In other words, Satan doesn't just rebel himself, he tries to reproduce the same rebellion inside humanity. And it works. When Adam and Eve eat from the tree, the immediate consequence isn't death by lightning, it's loss of authority. They're expelled from Eden, the administrative center of creation, and the ground itself becomes hostile. The system fractures. And Satan gains influence not by force, but by legal accusation. This is why the word Satan actually means adversary or accuser. In the book of Job, Satan doesn't attack randomly. He appears in a heavenly court. He argues a case. He challenges the legitimacy of Job's righteousness. This is not a rogue demon. This is a prosecutor, operating within a system he understands very well. So why was Satan cast out? Because once humanity fell, Satan didn't stop at opposition. He escalated. He began asserting authority he was never assigned. Jesus hints at this when he says, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." That fall is not just moral, it's jurisdictional. At some point, Satan crossed the line, not merely resisting God's plan, but attempting to override it permanently. And this is where pride enters, but again, not as ego. Pride, in biblical language, is self-derived authority, the belief that legitimacy comes from oneself rather than from God. Satan's core sin wasn't thinking too highly of himself. It was rejecting delegated authority while still trying to exercise power. That's why the New Testament describes him as the ruler of this world, but only temporarily and only within limits. His power is parasitic. It exists only where obedience collapses. This also explains why Jesus' ministry is framed the way it is. Jesus doesn't defeat Satan through raw power displays. He defeats him through obedience. In the wilderness, Satan offers Jesus authority over the kingdoms of the world, not through violence, but through bypassing obedience. "Worship me," he says. In other words, accept authority on my terms. Jesus refuses, not because the offer is fake, but because the method is illegitimate. And with that refusal, something shifts. The New Testament repeatedly describes Jesus as restoring what Adam lost, authority through obedience. Which leads us to the final, uncomfortable implication. Satan wasn't cast out simply because he was proud. He was cast out because he could not accept a universe where power does not determine authority, where the weak can be entrusted, where obedience outranks brilliance, where love governs more than fear. And that conflict hasn't ended. According to Revelation, Satan's final defeat comes not through annihilation, but exposure. His accusations fail. His authority evaporates. His system collapses. Because in God's design, authority isn't seized, it's given. And that truth, more than pride, more than rebellion, is why Satan fell. Not because he wanted God's throne, but because he rejected God's way of ruling. And the question the story leaves us with isn't just about Satan, it's about us. Do we seek control, or do we accept calling? Because according to the biblical narrative, that choice still shapes everything.